Hello, and welcome to the Congruency Queens Council podcast. I'm Lori Halliday, WiseHorseWoman. Steeped in decades of therapeutic, somatic, interspecies practices, I have cultivated pathways of deep listening, reflection, regulation, leadership, and counsel. Let's unpack real life together. Issues of racial disparity, trauma, mentorship, mastery, wins and losses as we honor each other's journey and glean the wisdom. We co-create the powerful culture and the conversation of transformation here. There are gifts in the shadow. And so together, we go gold digging through congruent and aligned stories and lives. Tune in to the heart-centered, influential leaders of the Congruency Queens Council. Good morning, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me here for the second interview on the Congruency Queens Council. And what I'm really feeling for the first 8 interviews after checking in with you is that these are one-of-a-kind partners of mine. One-of-a-kind kings and queens who are making such interesting shapes and ways of being during this time that it was very easy for me to know who I wanted to interview first. So thank you. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. And it's just good to see your face too, right? Like
It's been a while.
Yeah. And I think I saw you not long ago in live in person, and it's sweet to pass each other. We know, for the people who are listening, Sarah and I live in Santa Cruz, California. And so we sometimes actually see each other in the world, which is precious too. And of course, we had such a sweet time to be together for week after week, not that long ago, with Dark Horse Before the Dawn, which we will check in a little bit later about that as well. But if you're open, first, I'd love to have you tell us a little bit about yourself, and if you're willing to start with all the things that you're kind of playing with right now, and then I'd love for you to share with the listeners about how we met.
I get to share. um, so I live in Santa Cruz. I've been here for about 10 years, and I feel like life was like, it's time to deepen, and it's time to be still, and it's time to heal. And that's kind of, I think, in my soul. That's why I came here. I came here for other reasons as well, but um, and in this time here, I have cultivated a relationship with sound as a sound healer. I support people in processing challenging things and like trauma clearing and energy medicine. I've studied that. Um, I have a band and I'm completely in love with. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in love with my band and our music. And so there's been right now in my life, and then like the work that we did together.
Will you tell us the name of your band?
Oh, Yaya's Kitchen.
That's right, Yaya's Kitchen.
You can find us on all of the platforms. Yaya's Kitchen.
Cool.
Um, and excuse me, there's something about, I think, resonance um, with all things, like resonance with all things. How do we be with all things? And I think that's one of the things that we were doing in Dark Horse Rising, right? Is how do we be with all of the discomfort and stay connected and stay breathing and stay growing, right? Like continuing to keep things moving. And so in my life, work around like cultural sensitivity and race issues, and just how do we sit together and be with all the things with intelligence, wisdom, kindness, right? Innovativeness, creativity, all of these things. That's what my life is about right now. And it's really fulfilling. And the way that we met was so it's just like, when you land in a pocket, you're like, oh, this pocket is really nice. Is that velvet? I'm like, I'm sitting in a velvet pocket. um, I had just transitioned out of, I felt like a phase in my life, and
Right.
it was literally kind of like the next day I got on a we got on a phone call together with Kevin, um, and this amazing, amazing being who
Yeah,
I'd known,
Dr. Kevin O'Connor.
Dr. Kevin
Yeah,
O'Connor.
he's our pollinator. Yeah.
Dr. Kevin O'Connor,
Mm.
you.
Mm,
And yeah, and it was just kind of that
mm.
that immediate resonance, right? It felt like for me, I was like, oh, I made it. I made it somewhere else. I'm doing something that really feels like I'm alive here. I'm seen, I'm witnessed, and I can like express and collaborate. And it felt like a common, um, I want to say equal ground, even though you're like the facilitator and like the leader in the group. There's a way that I feel you collaborate with
Yes.
your leadership that is, yeah, that is grounded and inviting. And I just always felt like I had a voice. It's
Mm.
wonderful. Yeah.
Yes, and you really brought so much medicine. And in the actual training, in the heart of the 5 or 6 deep week dive that we did, I felt that your voice and your vulnerability became really pivotal to the carving out of what was really meant to happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we had great intentions and great plans, and we had, in fact, already done a whole session with the creator and collaborator founder, Jamila Jackson. And
Yes.
so you graciously came in, really, frankly, as a rescue to allow us to go forward. We
Uh-huh.
felt that we might not be able to go forward when we realized that Jamila would not be able to do the second session.
Yeah.
And so there was such, I just want to speak to that moment and I asked Kevin, not knowing if he knew a woman of color who would be a perfect fit and, at this moment. Um, and he said, yes, I do. I do know the perfect person. I said, are you kidding? He said, no, I'm going to call her right now. And I think we spoke to you the next day.
Yeah.
So there was just such a big yes in the beginning. And, I speak to this how the beginning, the opening sequence, all of the pieces are there, that many of the threads are there. And there has been a lot of willingness and ease and alchemy is kind of what I'm looking for, right? It felt
Oh
mysterious.
my gosh.
It,
Yeah.
it, it was like a real Celestine moment where all these things came together.
Yeah.
And then within the training, to speak to that collaboration, I just want to excuse my ranch sounds right now.
Yeah.
Not that
Part
they
of
need
the
excusing, but I want to call out what they
ceremony.
are.
Yeah.
The clickety click sound is my 3-legged dog Magic. She's right underfoot here. And then the barking, which I may have to attend to, is her big sister Lolly. And her mom's not on the ranch right now, and so she thinks she's homeless. So anyway, the animals are talking, and that's okay. I'm going to stay with this thread though, because this is kind of the heart of the heart for me. It was in the middle of Dark Horse Before the Dawn. We got to run into so many things. We were so careful. We were so intentional. We made such a beautiful container.
Yeah.
The people who were participating, the people who were creating, the people who were holding space, the people who were backing us up, like we had white allies. We had all these people in the space for us. And thank God and thank Goddess, because we did come up against ourselves over and over. And I think at
Yeah.
one point you said, it seems like after we turn off the Zoom call and we, release the 10, 15, however many of us there were totally involved, and we go into the after talk, that's when the real training starts, right?
Yeah.
We'd have a whole other kind of training session when we would try to unpack what was happening for us, trying to hold space for people while being under a train on the railroad track of
Yeah.
all of these issues.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, right? We did everything right. We did everything to curate and be gentle. And it's unavoidable
Mhm.
to run into the unawareness. I mean, that's like the doing everything. We ran into more unawareness. Oh, what does that feel like? Ah, and the thing, I think Kevin said this too, that this was like the gold medal. I was like, oh my God, we got the gold medal. Where Kevin was like, this was the first training that I've been in where all of the energy that maybe looked like fracture or breakage or was actually used. All of the energy was used for transformation. So
Whew.
it's like we did it, like that mechanism worked. It wasn't easy, right? We felt all the things, but that worked.
I can feel it in my body. Whew.
Yeah, and I feel like that was the gold star of like the century for me to be like that really happened, like we did that. Ah, yeah.
Yes. What
And
happened?
that we as facilitators allowed ourselves to be changed along the way as well, because we are not excluded from the change and the transformation of the workshop.
And one of the big takeaways for both of them was let's just stop here at the door. Like, let's don't even try to race through this door, get
Yeah,
down that hallway, look
yeah,
at ABC, do jumping jacks or whatever we had planned.
yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah,
going to
yeah,
just stop right here at what we called the approach.
yeah. Yes, that was
We're
so,
going to spend weeks looking
the,
at the approach.
the approach is everything. Like you said, the opening sequence, right? The approach has all of the information, all of the projections, all of the assumptions, all the expectations. Let's just like take a look at what we're bringing with us on this journey that we're calling healing, or, I'm going to do good
As
at
if
this thing.
is all of us lined up with all of our baggage and thoughts and history and all the
Uh-huh.
pieces, trying to squeeze through one door wasn't real, wasn't realistic,
Uh-huh.
right? It was like, well, if you could strip yourself down naked, we could maybe all slide through this tiny precipice. But otherwise, let's just pause right here.
Yeah, yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to pause.
Yes.
We don't have to hurry up and heal. That doesn't even make sense.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. My husband's telling me what he's done with my dogs to help me.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Thanks, love. Granddaughter dog is in the bedroom. Other dog is on the porch. Magic.
Okay.
Yes, yes. And the horses kept telling us, if you recall, we kept having this experience where the horses were saying, uh, slow down here. Look at all the things right here. Look what happens from a distance. Look what happens when you see us from a distance. What happens before you consider penetrating the entry? What happens way on the other side? What can you notice? Who are they with? How are they being? What's
Mm,
coming up for me? Like, what are my judgments and assumptions right away before I ever enter to what,
yeah.
speaking to what you were saying?
Yeah.
So they were so great too, right? The horses were amazing.
They're so amazing. Yeah. And just that resonant being, the body that they have that is so
Mm.
sensitive and wild, right? Who are we when we're actually not trying to control that? When we're actually in relationship with something that we can't control and is also precious,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're drawn to you.
Yeah.
We desire you. We want to have you, take you, touch you, hold you. We have all kinds of plans about our relationship
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
how to slow that down and like, what do you think? what do you, when you see me at a distance, what do I perceive that you're seeing? Like what it's just there's just a whole lot there. Like,
There's a lot
it's
to unpack.
kind of
Yeah.
like
So,
cyclical.
yeah.
Like it keeps returning to the self in some ways, back to looking at
Hmm.
the self.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I just want to take this moment again. I don't know if I've said it enough, but I'll keep saying it. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for being the woman, the vibration, where Kevin, my best friend, medicine man, said, I know exactly the person. And being in your own truth, in your own journey from where you were coming from, where you had just been, um, in a field of people and work, important work, where you were um, actually not resonating with the field any longer as well, right? And so just you being honest with yourself brought you so honestly into what we were doing.
Yeah.
And so I thank you for really being one of a kind and
Oh,
really holding true to that in yourself all along the way.
yeah.
And I'm using that line one of a kind because before we got on the call, we were looking at how the first 8 people who I'm interviewing are biracial.
Hmm.
And it's a very certain kind of person who develops through a biracial experience,
Yeah.
kind of a twin spirits of sorts.
Of sorts, yeah. And in our own families, we're one of a kind, right? In our own
Yes.
families. If we have siblings, we can be like three of a kind or two of a kind,
And
you know.
we
But
mean one thing to the one parent and we mean another thing to the other parent.
exactly, yeah.
Like there's so many ways that it's a myriad. It has multiplicity. It's not simple. It's really complex.
Yeah.
And I yeah.
Yeah, and I think like the like speaking truth through the divide or speaking truth through the difference,
Mm,
right? There's a third option, right?
mm,
Like we're kind of like the third option, right? That expands reality, it
mm,
expands possibility, expands potentiality,
mm,
and to really, I know in my life, like the challenge has been to actually feel like be honest with myself about my difference and really own it,
mm,
right? Because there's been a lot of other kinds of ideas and thoughts about who I am that when I was younger, it was hard for me to have strength in the face of or have authenticity in the face of, you
yeah.
know, and what
Whew.
I found in like working with others and myself and healing and also stepping into creativity is um, to actually feel my truth and then to actually speak my truth.
Mm,
That changes things instantaneously
mm,
when I can actually feel the depth of the truth that is here and actually bring it forth through my words with clarity. That changes my whole world. And I exist, right? Because no one else can speak for me.
mm,
Only I can speak for myself.
mm.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's how I think that's how we like come into the growing multidimensionality, right? It's like a pulsing. What is life calling? Oh, and it can be challenging because if I actually speak my truth, sometimes my whole reality has to change. My whole physical reality has to change, and that can be terrifying, and it can take a lot of work. But that's like the pathway.
Whoa. I'm just going to pause right there because what I hear you saying is that when I speak to truth from my aligned and congruent space, watch out.
Yeah,
Watch out.
yeah,
Manifestation is on.
yeah, yeah,
So I hear you. I, yes, I've been experiencing it in my own house.
yeah,
I stand up for certain things and a bunch of other things. Emotional, physical, spiritual things start shifting and moving, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Yeah, that's real.
yeah,
And this move you're making with your body that was like, what is
yeah.
the reaction? Opening into this, I was envisioning this kind of atrium that's like what Buckminster Fuller built, this beautiful tensegral dome,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah, I
And
love
we're
that word
pushing, right,
integrity.
falling open into
Yeah.
that. And that sometimes, as with fascia and tensegrity, right, these are all strings of tension we're holding, all these
Uh-huh.
pieces that are us, the multiplicity of us. Some fall away and the dome kind of falls there in that area,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
other things shift,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's so it's kind of it's a living coral reef, it's a living fascial body, and it's real.
It's real.
I mean, I just really want to pause because it is real. Things are shifting and changing, just like when you had that sense before the training of like, I'm not aligned with this, and then boom, a phone call comes in. And I'm thinking like, I need a miracle, and a miracle comes in.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Because it was so important to me, Sarah, to get to the next phase, not to be jumping ahead all the time. And I was holding this carrot in front of myself of getting to the training that we're about to do together in the end of April, called Dark Horse Rising. And I was so longing to get to the conversation where I could sit with women of color and share what I had understood over the journey of trying to cultivate conversations and um, do deep listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so looking forward to that. And
Too.
I was kind of afraid at that time that that carrot wouldn't come to be, but it was so powerful in my body, the desire to remain aligned with that vision, that I feel that everything fell in place, and that really what you were aligning with was a part of this as well. And so those living strings that we had been tuning to rose to the forefront. That vibration rose to the forefront,
Yeah.
so that we could meet that.
Yeah.
And it's been a catalyst for a lot, and I didn't see it coming. I didn't, I didn't predict it.
Uh-huh.
I was actually coaching with Jamila at the time, and she said, "Hey, what do you think about if we do something in relationship to the intensity of all the racial disparity and heinous crimes and chaos, um, to do with being with the horse and relating to the horse as the other? What do you think about that?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Yes." I said, "Yes." Right. And it started from there. And so that's kind of what we're tuning into here at the Congruency Queens Council is, what are the vibrations that we're tuning to that are working, that are moving us? And by working, I mean that are effective and aligned with what your love and your heart's desires and your mission is and who you are, right? Like back to your one of a kind. I want you to simply bring your most authentic, pure divinity, right? I just want Sarah Cruse. I don't want Sarah like anybody else.
I know. I
It's,
mean, I just want Sarah Cruz. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah, me too. I just want Lori.
like we just, yeah, we just like,
And that's this multiplicity coming into being,
yeah,
taking up space, making a larger dome, making a bigger space so that people can really see who we are. And that it's no longer the time for us to have to close down the spaces and um, be such clever shapeshifters. We are clever
clever
shapeshifters,
shapeshifter. Yeah.
and that's good. We've survived lots of things by being shapeshifters. And now I'm so curious about my own exact authentic tone, who I really am. And it's not just society and the world at large. It's right here in my house.
Yeah.
It's right in my own mind, the things that shape who Lori is.
Yeah.
And those are really changing a lot for me, especially over the last couple years.
Yeah.
Um, I'm very curious about what's been shifting and changing, what you're doing that you're loving that's really like, oh yeah, this is me. And I hear you saying it about the music earlier about Yaya Kitchen. I could feel the tone and the vibration rise when you spoke about that.
Yeah.
So any piece you'd like to share with, if you're willing, about what you're doing that it's right in your zone of genius and it's really working for you.
Mm. Yeah. Let's see. I think I think I will start with Yaya's Kitchen just for a moment. I know we've
Yeah.
spoken about it, but there's something about like the congruence, right? The tensegrity, the timing, right? Music is all about timing, right? It's found fundamental ground, and I feel like the time is
Mm,
right, and the players are right, and the life that we have individually walked through to get us here, right? I always like to I always had this concept of the royal we, and the royal we is the each individual I, that that has walked through its own individual idom, right? To and cultivated those things of individuality, cultivated the individuality, right? That the Western society has been like gung ho about, right? I think it's an intent. It's an important part of evolution. Is to know, like, to have sovereign eyes. I'm sovereign, and when I'm sovereign, when I'm here, then I can now connect with other sovereign beings, and there's an upgrade in the frequency, in the intelligence, in the intention of what the we is for now.
Mhm.
And there's something about that that, like, I'm like, I'm in love with this.
Mm.
Um, that the resonant tone of what's happening now, and it could just be like in my life, and so I'm seeing it everywhere. But I think my bandmates are also excited about stuff. Um, that there's something about sovereignty and balance are my like my holy grails right now. My other gold stars, right? I'm like sovereignty and then the balance. Like, there's a quote, I think, from Marianne Williamson: the only thing that is missing is what I'm not giving. The only thing that's missing from this moment is what I'm not giving. And so finding out, like, how do I bring this holding feeling to whole my life, right? Like, what is not here is something that I need to bring forth and express into the space, right? That has, back to, like, the voice, like, I can only speak for myself. So in my own environments, right? um, I just went through I just said a whole bunch of things.
Well,
um,
what I'm hearing is that you are cultivating and leaning into something you love,
yes,
and it is to do. You're a vocalist. Are
yes,
you're a vocalist? Yeah. So, and are you're mostly doing vocals with Yaya's
yeah,
Kitchen?
mostly doing
Okay,
vocals,
right.
yeah.
So I'm in this temporal zone, listening and feeling into what you're saying and how it's about your voice.
It is
And
a lot about my voice. Yeah,
ah,
yeah. All of this. Even our training was about my voice. Like,
yes,
that opportunity to be able to speak from that place, in a group.
yes.
Yeah.
And,
So,
and will you remind me? I tried to write it down, but I didn't catch it. What words were you using for the we that comes from the
oh,
more sovereign I?
the royal we.
Royal we. So I'm going to use that if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that, the royal we, because someone asked me, what do you mean by the Congruency Queens Council? Who are the queens on the council? And I was like, it's it's everyone who comes,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
It's all of us,
Yeah. Yeah.
the royal we,
The royal we. Yeah. And we all have a voice.
right?
We
Right.
all have a voice. Yeah.
Right. And I am going to be particular. I am, looks like, choosing biracial leaders. I am leaning in on what I experience as congruency because I feel that that brings more sovereignty to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I'm choosing those voices to counsel with, to be on council with. Um, and so, what we're talking about is really in alignment with what we're bringing and what we're kind of what we think works, right? We're talking about what's working.
Yes.
And it's hard, I think, sometimes. Let me reframe it. We can imagine that it's difficult to lean in on what we love because some people aren't trained for that,
Uh-huh.
most of us.
Yeah.
And um, I, I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to the practices or the little choices or the sticking to it, or what are some of the things that let you stay with your voice, voicing, Yaya's Kitchen? How did you stay with that and let that ripen into this, because this has a sort of different feel right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yaya's Kitchen in the derivation of my
Yeah,
life.
yeah, like I don't know, maybe I'm projecting this, but it almost sounds like it's in a new sweetness.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, what do you think, like if we could throw people a bone here, What do you think?
You know, a lot of my life has been about trusting,
Mm,
just trusting timing and trusting life.
mm.
And I have tried, I have tried to like move the engine or like move things up the hill, and it's exhausting and I don't get anywhere. And so there was some
Mm.
time in my life where I just kind of shifted into like this mode, you know? I'm like, yeah, I'm like, okay, I'll get there when I get there, right? And then
Mm.
along the way, there's lots of hmm, challenges. There's lots of challenges to meet, to be with,
Mhm,
to process, to
mhm,
overcome, to be honest about.
mhm.
And I think there's
Teachers.
something about, yeah, like me, like the word sovereignty, um, and really owning my own presence. Like I'm Sarah Cruz. I'm Sarah Cruz.
Yeah,
Right. This is what I'm here for. Like, I'm really excited to be here. We're gonna do some things, right? This is what I have to bring,
yeah.
right? That, like, it's taken me a long time to be able to do that because I didn't have a self. I didn't have a sense of self for a long time because of, I think, being a a unique being, and growing up in different worlds and just having different frames around me that I just was not. There was an energy pointed here that
Mhm,
could help bring me into awareness,
mm,
right? The external, internal, internal, external was not happening. So there were parts of me that were just here in the silent darkness.
mm,
That and it took a while of the back and forth, external, internal, internal, external, getting feedback from my environment, and then trying something to expressing out here, getting feedback from my environment
mhm,
to actually find
mhm, mhm.
that rock that is my core. Took me a while to even say it, right? That rock that is my core. Um, and now I feel like I have a core and I have a voice, um, and that changes everything.
Yeah,
I'm not searching for myself or searching for something to tell me that I am who I want to be.
right. It sounds like this kind of balancing act. Tell me if this sounds accurate. On the one hand, you got right out in the world and started practicing and trying. You started a whole bunch of trial and error with likely some trusted people as best you could
I
because
did.
it didn't sound too horrible. Like it was like a new kind of trial and error. And then on the other hand, you took the foot off the gas pedal, you leaned back a little bit, you
Uh-huh.
cut yourself some slack, you gave yourself a break, which is I relate to and resonate with on a lot of the things and pressures I've been putting on myself. You
Uh-huh.
kind of turned off some of that so you could
Yeah.
lean back a little bit and just
Yeah.
no, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm not going to pull, push, or chase. I'm going to come back here and practice Sarah Cruse, Sarah Cruse, Sarah Cruse, Sarah Cruse. Oh, this works. Oh, that doesn't work. Oh, this works. Oh, that doesn't work.
Uh-huh.
Is that kind of, am I
Yeah.
hearing that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of yeah, I love how I love your reframing.
Mm,
Yeah, and I just want to share this image that
yes.
just makes me laugh out loud when I think about it because I did not have a voice. I was an athlete. I ran track. I was silent. I was a thoroughbred. I was a thoroughbred.
Oh,
I just did what I did, right? Did what I did. I went to college. I didn't have a voice. I was still a thoroughbred. And then
oh,
I kind of like got so broken. My body was so injured. I couldn't run anymore,
oh,
and I was like, "Who am I?" And my precious housemate wrote poetry, and she would share that poetry with me, and that is what gave me something else.
oh.
So a lot of my enduring, enduring, I think, is for survival. Like I don't know. I have to have a voice. Like if I don't have a voice, I'm gonna die. Is what it felt like. If I don't have a voice, I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna be in a crazy loony bin if I don't have a voice. So there was
Literally,
something about
literally.
that survival. I'm just going to keep pushing forward. And when you can't, when you're not used to speaking and you try to speak, it's terrifying. There's the funny thing is, there's like a Jim Carrey thing where he just like thrusts his body. Like, it's like he's not. doing it on purpose, but some greater force is taking his body and throwing him. And
Yes.
I felt like that was me. Like in college, I would thrust up my hand in class and not even know what I was going to say. I'm like, oh, fuck. But there was no other way to get me there. And I did crazy things like that for a long time until I got hurt enough and tired enough and brave enough and free enough, like all the things together, to slow down and then be a little more intentional about how I come out.
Wow. I'm going to listen to this again when we're finished. I am not kidding. That is golden.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that sounds simple, but that is gold.
Yeah, it was like I need to come out. Like I'm gonna die if I don't come out, and there's something precious in here that feels like it's locked away, but I'm not giving up.
Right. Wow. I feel the tension of knowing that the voice must come out and knowing that you must slow down enough to
Oof.
shape and hear and perceive her
Yeah.
simultaneously while she's possessed,
Yeah.
like a zombie getting
Yeah.
thrashed around.
Yes.
And I can
Yeah.
feel that and hear that and see that, and I recognize that in my own body.
Thank
So thank you, because now we can do a little truth talk that it might not be pretty, might
you.
not be comfortable.
Yeah.
When rocket ships launch, all kinds of landing equipment falls off. And then before it goes into orbit, it sheds a whole bunch of other critical aspects, things it thought it couldn't live without.
Oh,
And then
goodness.
that baby's in orbit.
Oh, and then that like
Floating, lightness, perspective. Yeah, the royal we can start.
royal we.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There are a million things I want to talk to you about, and I'm realizing that we're getting really close with so much ease and facility to our last couple of minutes here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring it in the way I began, which is thanking you. I thank you so much. I love and adore you. When I see you, I'm really at ease.
Uh,
When I hear your voice, I really listen. I lean in to listen. And so know and accept and receive that um, soul sisters like me are just leaning in to hear what you're saying.
mm, mm,
So I love you. And
mm.
I'm so looking forward. We'll just do a little plug for what we're up to when we get to meet at the end of the month for Dark Horse Rising, the beautiful sort of coming together, feels like a coming of age of a particular kind of work. I've never hosted a work for women of color in my life.
Oh my God.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
Well, I'll be
I'm
crying together.
crying.
Yeah.
Some of your close people will be there, and my close people will be there. And the sort of spoiler alert is we're going to do a lot of receiving of beauty, of care, of experiences of wildness. We will end up together at Return to Freedom, which is in San Luis Obispo, and we will have hours on open what feels like to me, even though it's owned by a white family, that family chooses to keep wild Mustangs on it. So they are a part of the royal we for me. So I still call it sovereign land in my imagination. It's still sovereign land because of its use in my lifetime. And we will be on that land and we will be with those herds of Mustangs and those beautiful burros. And we will just be receiving and remembering wildness,
Mm,
sovereignty of our own individual selves, and really with the intention that we do the work that you and I are doing to return to our voices so that these precious, powerful voices will be heard.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lori.
Oh, Sarah, I love you. I can't believe we're about to go on holiday together.
I know. I'm gonna go on holiday with Lori Halliday. Just so
Holiday.
you know.
I hope that
Yeah.
you'll come and join us again. Thank you for being really right here at the birth of another important part of our voices being heard.
Yeah.
So thank you. I love you. And I'll bug you later.
Okay. Thank you
Bless you,
so much.
darling. Thank you so much.